Alright, yo, we're back with another video. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to complete chapter 4. I would say an episode, but there isn't really an episode. We are going to be doing the final stage, of course, to showcase, but realistically, all the different bosses that we're going to be fighting throughout this entire chapter is going to be quite different. So I'm just going to give you the rundown on the characters you're going to want to use for each stage. That way you can complete it. And then I'll do the final stage with the team, so that way you can kind of get an idea of how to use them, because a lot of the characters are going to be roughly the same for each fight, because they're just very flexible and universal that you won't have any issues, especially when a lot of the enemies don't really have any advantages over you. So let's get right into it. So first up, we got the first stage. So the first stage over here is going to be chapter 7. I mean, excuse me, not chapter 7, episode 7 versus Todo. So the character teams that you're going to want to be using on Todo is this team. This team right here. This team is going to do completely fine. You're going to have Miwa to stall, tank, and taunt. Then you're gonna have Yuki to provide buffs, buffs for your survivability, and then you're gonna have Yeri to be able to heal your team and keep that sustained to make sure everybody's healthy. And then of course your final slot is going to be your DPS character, depending on the stage. In this case, the character is Todo, and he's weak to green. So what you can do is, for the Todo stage, you can use Megumin. You use Megumin, or you can use the rare Saki. You can use either or. And then you should be good to go. In terms of memory, we're going to be using these memories, and yeah, that's basically the team. So in this case, you wouldn't use Yuji. Like I said, you would either use Megumin or you would use Saki. And if you have a better green DPS character or a green character like Panda, for example, or Itadori, then you could use either of those two and you're good to go. Or even Nanami, right? You could even use Nanami and you're good to go. You don't have to use those characters. I'm using those because those are the most free-to-play like, right? Everything I'm gonna give examples for today is gonna be for the free-to-play way to do it. If you do have those SR characters, then the fight is gonna be significantly more easier for you. So now this fight versus Mekamaru, you're going to be using Yuji Itadori instead of Megumin and them. That's gonna be your carry for this one. Very simple, straightforward. Now this stage, the same thing. We're going to be using Itadori for stage 12. Because stage 13, you're going to be using Megumin, or any of the SSR green characters. Same for stage 14. Stage 14 is a slightly more difficult version of 13. Then last but not least, we're on stage 17, the one that we're actually going to showcase, and he is weak to red. So we're going to be using a red character to actually beat the stage, and I'm going to show you what red DPS character I'm going to be using. Now, red doesn't necessarily have a specific red, like, free-to-play version character that you can really use to actually maximize your damage, because a lot of the red characters that we do have are more support characters. For example, we have Yaga. Yaga is a support character. Nanami is also a support character, but he can do damage as well. So we're going to be using Nanami to showcase this. You don't need to use Nanami. You can use anybody who's red, literally anybody. Just with Miwa and Nanami, or whoever you choose as red, should be enough to handle the fight. Those two characters should be fine. You could even use Inumaki if you really wanted to boost all your ultimate skill gauge again from all your teams, so that way you can complete it. But in my case, I'm going to be using Nanami and just buffing my team and trying to do as much damage as possible. But Inumaki definitely fits in this spot easily. I'm feeling the ultimate skill gauge you can actually you know what, I'll actually use Inumaki because I think he's more accessible to everybody. As you can see here, I'm using the second skill. This provides damage reduction for your team, and it also gives you ultimate skill gauge for your ultimate special gauge for your entire team. Then here we're going to be using Yuki's second skill, because the second skill will provide a buff that will, obviously survivability for your entire team. Although you don't necessarily need it, I just use him here because, I mean, there's no reason for me not to use it. stages where the enemy does tie jutsu damage, you're definitely not going to want to use that skill. You're going to probably want to focus on his first, third skill and ultimate for Yuki. And that's basically chapter 4. As you can see, most of these bosses on chapter 4 don't have any crazy extreme gimmicks. They just do decent damage. As long as you build a good fundamental team or formation, you should be completely fine. So the team I gave you here works for all of them. All you have to really do is just switch out the carry depending on what type of advantage you'll have. But if you're really down bad, you could just use Itadori on all of them and you should be fine, because you'll probably need Itadori for most of the stages. Like if you consider the fact like the other chapters, a lot of the end bosses are weak to blue. So if you use the rare Itadori and you only invest into him, you should be completely fine. Or at least Gojo, either of the two. If you invest into the rare Itadori or SSR Gojo, those two, they should get you along through this whole entire story all the way up until chapter 4 with this team specifically, right? So you should be good to go. And that's basically about it. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.